Today we are going to sow our scabious. Now, scabious is incredibly quick from seed and it grows far too quickly for an autumn jump starter. The problem is, if you sow it in the autumn, what happens is it needs planting out in mid-winter when the ground is all frozen. And if you leave them in their pots, they tend to die on you. And if you pinch them back, then they'll definitely go and die on you. So now is the perfect time to sow your scabious. So we've got two different varieties that we're sowing this year. We've got the wedding blend. Here are the seeds. Now these have got their jackets on. However, garden blend has got the jackets off. It's just because they've come from two different breeders and they have different methods of harvesting. Now the jacket is not the seed. So in your wedding blend, if you have any seeds in the bottom of the packet, it just means they've dropped out of the jacket and you are to sow them in the same way. The jacket is not the seed, this is the seed. So whichever seeds that you're going to sow, maybe you've got both, we're going to sow them in the same way. Now they need light for germination, so we don't want to bury the seeds. However, I do find that after germination, they can push themselves up out of the soil. So what I'm doing is I'm making a small impression in the compost. I've already made a start, and then you can see I'm laying the seed in the impression, which means that keeps it nicely anchored in the compost. However, it's not going to obscure the light, which is what they need. Okay, best I can, I'm sowing one seed per cell. Look like little shuttlecocks, don't they? So again, these seeds are the same as the garden blend. The only difference is they've got their jackets on. There we go, just pop the rest back in the packet in case we've got any gaps later. Fold the foil down. Now you'll notice that I have watered these seed trays ahead of time, because if you sow and then water them afterwards, you run the risk of washing some of the compost over the seed and burying it. Don't forget your label. And then to keep the environment nice and humid, stop it from drying out, I'm going to put a clear propagator lid over the top. Like a warm germination period of about 19 degrees, and with that they can be very rapid indeed. So you can either use your heat mat in your greenhouse, or if you're going to germinate them in the house, that's absolutely fine, but do check them every day and bring them down to the greenhouse as soon as you see that germination has occurred. I know that most of you will be germinating indoors, so I thought I'd start these off. These are the garden blend because we can see the seedlings emerging much more easily. So these have been indoors for 4 days. 4 days, and look at that. You can already see the germination occurring. Now, if you have them on a heat mat, they will be even more rapid than that. I will run a quick video for you now. There we go, so I'm just going to tuck the scabious in. They're on the heat mat, as you can see. Propagator lid goes on the top. And as before, if you don't have a heat mat, then just germinate them in the warm environment of the house, but do keep an eye on them. Now, just so you don't worry, here are the snapdragons that I did earlier. I'm not going to lift the lid at the moment because this is what we want. Can you see all the condensation on the inside of the propagator lid? Now this is fine because the water's fresh. We only did it yesterday. The seeds haven't germinated, but if we didn't have this lid, can you see all of this water would have evaporated up and out into the atmosphere. The compost would be drying out, leaving your seed dry too. So this is the reason why we use the lid. So let's have a quick look at the scabious, see how we're getting on. Are you ready? Look! How exciting! They're all coming. And I've got some more here I'm doing as a trial. They're looking really good too. Fingers crossed for those. The compost looks a tiny bit dry in the middle, so I think I'll just give that a light water. Had you had no lid, it would have dried out completely, and I've not been in the greenhouse for a few days because of the storms. I will put them back on the heat. You can see almost everybody's almost there. So I'm going to put them back on the heat mat for one more day, maybe two. Back to today, and this seed tray here, I'm going to take it for a day trip down to the greenhouse just to get some sunshine on them. Not everybody's germinated, almost though. So I'm going to bring them back up to the house tonight so they're nice and warm, and hopefully by tomorrow we will have 100% germination. So we've got here the stalks and the scabious, which are plenty big enough now to come out. They've been potted on in their 15 cell trays. They're plenty big enough to come out under the cold frames, which they will stay until we plant them out probably in May. They've got a little bit of growing left still to do. Beautiful day, isn't it? So I'm planting these scabious 22 centimetres apart. Scabious is an excellent plant if you've had some winter casualties. So things like cornflowers, if you've lost them, rather than sow more cornflowers, which are going to struggle and are not going to be the best plants, you're better off sowing a few more scabious, because they don't mind the heat waves that we have in the summer where the cornflowers will shut down and finish. That's too hot for me, thanks very much. The scabious, as long as you keep deadheading them, will keep coming and coming and coming. And there we go, a supernatural scabious arrangement.